There's a haunting moment in rock history, a point where the music stops being just a song and becomes a farewell. For the Rolling Stones, that moment came in 1969, a year filled with success, chaos, and tragedy. Because that was the year they lost Brian Jones, the founding member, the visionary, and the man who started it all. Brian Jones wasn't just another bandmate, he was the Rolling Stones in their earliest form. He named the band, he booked their first gigs, he shaped their sound with his love for blues and his obsession with musical detail. In the early days, while Mick Jagger and Keith Richards were still figuring out their songwriting voice, Brian was the one who gave the Stones their identity. He played slide guitar, harmonica, sitar, dulcimer, instruments no one else in rock was even touching. But behind the genius was a man slowly falling apart. By the mid-1960s, fame had turned heavy. Drugs, exhaustion, and creative conflicts tore Brian from the band he helped build. Mick and Keith's songwriting partnership became dominant, while Brian, once their leader, drifted further into the shadows. Recording sessions became tense, Brian's contributions shrank, his behavior grew erratic, and his emotional state fragile. In 1969, after years of tension, the Rolling Stones made the hardest decision of their career. They asked Brian to leave. They told the press it was mutual, that Brian wanted to make his own kind of music. But everyone knew it wasn't really his choice. Just weeks later, on the night of July 2nd, Brian Jones was found dead in his swimming pool at Cotchford Farm. He was 27 years old. The world was stunned. To fans, Brian was still one of the Stones, the beautiful, mysterious blonde figure who had given the band its early sound. And to Mick Jagger, it was complicated. They hadn't been close for years. But no matter how fractured their relationship had become, Brian's death hit deep. He wasn't just a friend, he was a piece of their story. Without him, there would have been no Rolling Stones. In the months after Brian's death, the band recorded one of their most haunting songs, a track that captured grief, guilt, and the uneasy weight of fame. It was called Shine a Light. Originally begun in 1968, when Brian was still alive, the song started as a quiet reflection Mick Jagger had written about his fallen friend, a man he could see slipping away even before the end came. At that time, the song was titled, Get a Line on You. Its lyrics already hinted at Brian's decline, the drugs, the sadness, the disconnection from the band's growing success. The line, got to see your doctor feeling low down and weak, wasn't fiction, it was observation. Mick could see Brian unraveling right in front of him, but the song never felt finished, not yet. After Brian's death, Mick returned to it. He reworked the lyrics, changed the tone, and renamed it Shine a Light. What emerged wasn't just a song of mourning, it was a eulogy. Shine a Light became one of the most emotional pieces Mick Jagger ever wrote. It wasn't angry, it wasn't indulgent, it was tender, full of sorrow, and strangely, forgiveness. The lyrics describe someone trying to find peace after chaos. May the good Lord shine a light on you, make every song your favorite tune. It's not hard to imagine who he was talking about. A troubled musician, misunderstood and lost, finally at rest. Brian Jones. When the Rolling Stones finally recorded Shine a Light for their 1972 album Exile on Main Saint, the band was in a very different place. The 1960s were gone. The innocence had faded. The music had grown darker, heavier, and more honest. Mick recorded the vocals with quiet intensity, and Billy Preston's gospel-infused piano brought a touch of redemption, as if they were lifting Brian's spirit up with every note. Keith Richards, however, had little involvement in the track. He was dealing with his own struggles, heroin addiction, and his own complicated feelings about Brian. But Mick pushed forward, determined to finish what had begun years earlier. Shine a Light became his way of saying what he never could in person. Some fans have pointed out how direct the lyrics are when you read them closely. Lines like, I felt so sad inside, they took you for everything you had. A subtle jab at the way fame, press, and excess drained Brian's spirit. Mick's words seem to oscillate between guilt and compassion, between remembrance and release. It's as if he's both mourning Brian and forgiving himself. In interviews, Mick rarely spoke about Brian's death. He didn't like sentimentality, but in Shine a Light, he didn't have to say it out loud. It's all there in the music. It's grief wrapped in melody, a prayer disguised as a rock song. Over the years, Shine a Light took on a life of its own. It closed concerts, inspired documentaries, and became a quiet anthem of remembrance, not just for Brian Jones, but for the spirit of the Rolling Stones themselves. When Martin Scorsese directed the 2008 concert film Shine a Light, the title wasn't a coincidence. It was an acknowledgement, a full circle moment, tying the band's legacy back to its most tragic chapter. Even Keith Richards, who had his own turbulent history with Brian, once said that playing the song live still brought a strange peace. Because no matter how far they'd come, Brian's presence was always there. Somewhere in the music, in the myth, in the name itself. For Mick Jagger, Shine a Light remains one of his most deeply personal songs. It's not a chart-topping hit or a crowd-pleasing anthem. It's a confession. A reminder that even in the loudest, most hedonistic band in rock history, there was still room for quiet reflection. Brian Jones was complicated, brilliant, self-destructive, sensitive, and restless. He gave the world the Rolling Stones, and in return, the world gave him fame he couldn't survive. Mick once said that finishing Shine a Light helped him make peace with the past. He couldn't change what happened. He couldn't bring Brian back. But through the song, he could finally say goodbye. Not with anger, but with love. And maybe that's what makes Shine a Light so powerful. It's not about death. It's about memory. It's about carrying the light of someone who burned too bright for too short a time.